Are you an angel?
You're not dead.
Help me. Would you help me? For God's sake?
Suppose I do. What will you do for me?
Anything.
All right.
Tommy Lee Jones says he's always looking for originality in a script. He found one in The Homesman, originally a book which he helped to script into a movie. This one is about women in the time just before the Civil War. This would put you in about the 1840s.
I don't know how the term Western is defined. I have the impression over the years that a Western is a movie that has horses in it and big hats. It takes place in the 19th century, usually on the west side of the Mississippi River. I've read critics who are bold enough to call science fiction movies Westerns. So it's a term that people use, but I don't think it has much of a definition.
I think the human condition's the same. The time has changed. The costumes have changed. The characters we have in this movie had less access to health care of all kinds, of mental health and medical health all around, nutrition. But people suffer. People have always suffered, and they will continue to suffer for various reasons. And I think that this is an honest look at the suffering of these people at this time in our American history. It's not what it's often held out to be.
It's not your traditional, gunslingers and streets and cowherds and cowboys and gunfights and fistfights, but I think it's a Western. There's a lot of Western things about it. The fight with the freighter and the wagon going from west to east and the traveling and the hardship. It's all there. I guess you'd call it a classic Western.
The Homesman is not a Western. It's a Midwestern. It's not about cowboys and Indians, although there are Indians and there is the sort of terrain in which cowboys lived and told their stories.
But it's not the West that we've traditionally seen in American motion pictures. It's earlier on. Most of the Westerns that are made in the 1880s, 1890s. And this is about life on the early frontier in really what is the Midwest as opposed to the West. So no, I wouldn't call it a Western. There are certain things that it shares with Westerns. There are horses, there are mules, there are wagons, there are carts, there are guns, there are Indians. But in the end, no, I wouldn't call it a Western.
This is about people going back east, returning from the hell that was the Midwest in the 1840s, a concept most of us have never really considered.
Oh my Jesus.
We've mostly been open to and accepted without question the heroic story of the covered wagons rolling west, bringing the white civilization to the plains and beyond, spreading a new way of life. Well, here's another take on that.
You didn't give me but 2 damn skinny blankets. It gets cold at night out here.
You noticed.
I won't try to hide the fact that a consideration of American imperialism on the west side of the Mississippi River is an underlying theme. But I'll let the movie speak for itself. But yeah, we thought about that before we wrote the screenplay, while we were writing it, and while we were shooting it.
Hilary Swank holds the screen. She plays a woman who's interesting, unusual, and just different from what we are accustomed to.
I can ride as well as anybody and handle a team and shoot. You all know that. And I can cook and care for those women better than any of you can.
Hell, she's right.
Once again, this theme, originality. The script is surprising. It takes sudden turns. Just when you think something's settled, something is clearly concluded, and closure, excuse the expression for this ridiculous concept, but that closure has been reached. The movie jumps in another way to say or to mock us, looking for such childish and simplistic answers.
They're crazy.
They're precious to the Lord.
Precious to me, too. Give me that skillet.
Among the critical voices I read and listened to were many who felt confused.
3 crazy women for 5 weeks is a lot more than I bargained for.
Well, Tommy Lee Jones, like most of the thinking filmmakers that we watch, wants us to do exactly that. Push yourself. Think. Imagine. This movie is odd. It's unpredictable, and you have to make adjustments. we get the full and accurate picture of the enormous challenges facing people who went, in quotes, west. The climate, topography, the relentless wind that influenced so much in the Midwest. The very idea that what we call the Midwest now was west to these people. Concept that one could be driven insane by just having too much asked of them. Think about that. This is really something to consider. Just how much can people endure before they actually crack? The film gives us the quick reversals of fate, the contradictions, the sudden end of things.
Are you crazy?
The writers paint a picture, and we are supposed to figure it out. We usually think in terms of heroic behavior, unlimited patience, and strength with the early settlers. But here we see these people are us. Vulnerable people who behave badly and non-heroically.
You wouldn't defile and desecrate. You are horrible.
I don't want to be cold anymore when I'm trying to sleep. I need this buffalo hide, and that dead Indian don't.
The concept of what the church meant in these circumstances is very interesting. Not so much religious force, perhaps, but an entity that was civilizing and extended itself to retain a culture and civility. The lack or absence of law enforcement, power of the gun, and violence, taking the law into your own hands. All these facets of our history echo today. The comment on man's push west, on the manifest destiny that allowed settlers to move west in the huge continent, the guns, the right to property, the status of women, nothing new and nothing old here. The very basis of many of the beliefs that we are still debating today are illustrated in this really fine independent film. Remember, the Tommy Lee character ends the film by returning as fast as he can to the West. He is the America that is coming, and he's got a gun and some deep-seated ideas of his right.
You sons of bitches! We are headed west, goddammit! If that hair lip's a goddamn devil! Oh, Charlie, he's fine.